Hi, this is Randy. I just had an experience. I thought I would share it with you. It's half upsetting and half refreshing, so take it however you will. But I went up to the bar/restaurant to order some food, and while I was waiting for the food, I ordered one beer, and suddenly some guy from across the way with a baseball cap on yelled my name, Randy, whatever. So I'm like, I put on my glasses. I was like, Doug? And he's like, yeah, come on over here. How are you doing? So I went over there. I'm waiting for my to-go food to be ready. And I had seen this guy maybe 6 months ago at the same place. And he had asked for my number, and I wasn't attracted to him, and I just gave him my number anyway, and he never called, which was good. But he was like, how's life treating you? How are you doing? And I said, I was honest, because I'm always honest, stupid me, and I'm like, not really that good. Kind of sucks. And he's like, oh, really? Well, I'm like seeing the glass half full. And I'm like, really? Then why are you here by yourself drinking beers and shots? And he's like, oh, well, that doesn't mean anything. I'm still doing good. Like, I can't complain. Typical guy. So I was like, okay, well, yeah, it's fine. I said, but, the more I learn about how things really are, the kind of worse it gets. So what's going on with you? And he says, well, I had an epiphany today. And he goes, it's kind of a long story. I don't know if I should tell you. And I'm like, well, I'm still waiting for my food. So, I'm up for hearing epiphanies. Epiphanies are great. Let me hear what your epiphany was. And he says, well, we went to school together, and we both went to Catholic schools, and I got married in my 20s. I was married for 15, 20 years, and then got divorced. And throughout that whole time, I never even considered, it never crossed my mind to cheat on my wife. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. Totally understand. Never crossed my mind to cheat on my husband either. So what's your point? What was the epiphany? He's like, well, I'm a nurse. I'm an RN, and I work at the university hospital now. And I've been working there for several years, and I work with all these great people and around a lot of women. I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember the times when I used to work at a hospital. Lots of guys. It was really fun. I was really young back then, and everybody was single, so we had a blast. Well, it's now 25 years later, so he's now working at a hospital, and he's saying, that he sees all these people that he works with as really like these, kind of puts them up on a pedestal, like these really great, he called them pious. He's like all these pious women, basically virtuous women. He felt like he was working around like this really great group of people, right? And he'd been working there for a long time. He said he had lunch with his buddy today who also works there, and after all these years, his friend proceeded to name all the people that they both work with that are all screwing each other and that are married to other people. And my friend Doug said that he was like, I know I must be naive. And I'm like, hey, being naive, can be good. Now you know the truth. How do you feel about it? And he's like, I don't know. He goes, it was just, and I said, well, you didn't have an epiphany, man. You had a dose of the truth. And I mean, it really sucks. It's not really enlightenment. It's just like, that's how things are now, and you never looked at it like that, and you're going to start looking at other things.
I'm going to a concert. I'll probably stay that either Berners or...
Okay. Be careful. You're going to start seeing other things like this too. You're going to have more, quote, epiphanies of reality. And I'm like, you're going to wish you went back to this naivete that you said that you had, because you had this impression of all these people around you that was really glowing. And now you find out that all these people who are married to other people are all screwing each other in the hospital, you know, in and out of the hospital, having affairs, and it's blown your mind, and you're thinking there's something wrong with you, but no, Doug, there's nothing wrong with you. There's something right about you, because that's just not the way we grew up. That's not the way we grew up to look at things. I don't know if it's because we went to a Catholic school or not, because we did go to Catholic school. I don't know if that's it. I don't know if this generation, but Doug was shocked, and he's blaming himself for being naive. And I was like, no, Doug, you're fine. You're going to wish you were naive again, because if you really, the more you know, the more negative you're going to be, because the world has changed. And he's like, no, but don't you think these kinds of things have been going on the whole time, and we just didn't know? And now that you know, it's like you just want to kick yourself, like, I should have known that. I'm like, no, I don't think that. I think that the world has gotten worse, and all of these things are okay, and the wrong people are blaming themselves, and the people that are guilty or doing wrong are going about it as if it's just normal. So that's the end of my story. As I said, it's sad because my friend Doug got a dose of reality today that really rocked his world. But the good thing is that Doug did have a good heart. He was naive. He never thought about cheating, and he had no idea that people were the way they were until his buddy told him about all the people that were fucking each other in the hospital. Nurses, doctors, whatever, anesthesiologists, all of them. And the way this night ended for me was, then of course Doug says, well, you know, why are you here? And I was like, well, you know, I wanted to go out to dinner, and I just thought I'd come up here and grab something. And he's like, well, I remember we exchanged numbers a while ago. Would you like be interested in like meeting me for a drink sometime? And I said, well, Doug, I guess I would. I said, but it would just be as friends. And Doug said, oh, well, forget it. And I was like, yeah, I know what you mean. He goes, yeah, I don't have time for just friends, you know. And I said, I agree. I said, me either. I said, thanks for being honest. And he goes, no, thank you. And I'm like, yeah, I said, because from my end, it would be just friends. And he's like, okay, well, that's cool. He's like, no. And I'm like, okay, no then. And it was like so easy to say no. And he totally understood. And then he was honest and said he's not interested in that. He goes, well, who would be? And I said, well, believe it or not, a lot of guys would be. They act like they're fine with that. But they have a hidden agenda. He's like, oh, no. He goes, no, that's not what I was talking about. And I said, well, I understand. He's like, all right, well, you have a good night. I said, you have a good night too, Doug. Good night. And have a good night, everybody who's listening.